First is sort. Well, that's where we clearly distinguish what we have, what is necessary, and what is unnecessary. And you have to take this both from a value stream level look, as well as the individual workspace. So you have to think in both directions, which is a little bit difficult, which is why 5S is really a lot more than what we would call spring cleaning. It's a lot more than that. It's about organizational health, right? So when we talk sort, for instance, if you're looking at a workstation, you want to ask yourself, what is needed at this workstation to get the work that is done here? I.e., we go to a lot of clients and I'll see a lot of in manufacturing, and I'll see toolboxes, and I'll open up toolbox drawers and it'll be chock full, wrenches, screwdrivers, Allen wrenches, you name it. And it's drawer after drawer. They're cluttered, they're messy. And I'll say 99 times out of 100, when I really look at that workstation in that space, they don't need all of those tools. They only need 5, 10, something like that. The rest of those tools can go away. They don't need to be at that spot. I always say, whether it's a tool or a product, it has to earn the right to take up space on your shop floor. So as you're looking at it, again, you have to look at it at that level. So you say, okay, here I need these things. I don't need these things. Now, for those things that you determine that you do not need, I always like to say, throw away, get rid of anything you know you can. If you will not use it, if nobody else in your organization is going to use it or need it, get rid of it. Now, you could literally throw it in the dumpster. Or you could, you can sell it, you can donate it. There's lots of things you can do. The one thing I always like to advise clients not to do is to just hang on to it. And I'll tell you, of any piece of the 5S process, this is the hardest part. This is the part where people will struggle. It's real easy to throw things away when they're rusty, broken, old and need maintenance that you're never going to do, stuff like that. But when it comes to a part or a tool and it's air quotes still good, it gets really hard for some people to get rid of those things because they're so afraid that if they get rid of it today, tomorrow is going to be the day that they're going to need it. And it's going to be that one time in their 20-year history where the day finally came and we didn't have it. I have clients all over the place that literally rent buildings to store old tools and equipment and products that will never see the light of day again, all under the umbrella of, well, it's still good. I still might need it someday. It'll bite you every single time. So I want to mention that because you have to be prepared, especially if you're engaging with frontline folks. They're going to be very nervous about getting rid of some of this stuff. And I've said that in broad. There will be some folks that will be like, this is the greatest thing ever. I've always hated it. This has always been cluttered. So I want to get rid of this stuff. So I'll say, throw away anything you can. Just get rid of it. You can use a red tag for anything that you are unsure of. And what a red tag is, it looks like this. I actually have some right here because I'm going to a client tomorrow, as a matter of fact, that I have to deliver these to. What you can do with red tags is for those things that are, they are still good. Maybe they're broken, but you really do need it. So it really needs to get repaired. Or it could be under the category of, I don't think we need it, but I can't make that decision. I need my boss's boss, the owner of the company, somebody else to make that call. You can put what we call a red tag on it. So the most important parts of this is the date and who it's tagged by and the reason why. Because again, if it has to get taken out and brought over maintenance, have them fix something, right? That has to get communicated. This is a great tool to use in those instances where you're not quite sure, but you're pretty convinced that you don't need it. I have had it where a fixture on a shop floor got red tagged by first shift. Second shift came in that same day and their eyes immediately went over to it. And that's the reason it's red, because it grabs your attention. And they said, why is that fixture red tagged? We use that every single day. And I said, well, first shift said you didn't. And they said, well, let me show you our work instructions. And they pulled them out. And sure enough, page 3 or 4, they said right here, see, fixture XYZ. We have to use it. As it turned out, first shift wasn't following the work instruction. And we never would have known that had they not red tagged it, or worse, had they just taken that fixture and thrown it in the steel dumpster, and then somebody would have had to go fish it back out, which I have had happen. So try to avoid that if at all possible. Now, the way you red tag, you can go in a couple of different directions. If you have the space, I strongly recommend that you set up what we call a red tag area. So that's just a spot on the floor, however big you need it, and it's roped off, and that becomes your red tag area. So anywhere in the whole plant, if there's something that somebody in a department or a work cell determines we don't need this, we want it out of our cell, it gives them a place to put it right away. I've done this at places I've worked. I also recommend it to clients. And it's a great avenue because the other thing is, in larger companies, sometimes you have, people that work there. You have thousands of people. Sometimes people will, if Waleed and I are working at the same location and we're both engineers, I might be throwing away a bench or a toolbox that he could use. We may never have met each other, but he knows this red tag area. So if he goes over and looks, the company can actually save some money because it's in good working order. If Waleed doesn't have that opportunity, I'm going to throw that away. He's going to order a brand new one, and we'll never know that we could have made this connection. So if you have the space, I strongly recommend having a red tag area. Now, one very important rule with red tag areas, you have to set up a system, a process that says this red tag area will be reviewed by somebody high enough up to make a decision at a certain interval. I like 2 weeks. So at one place, we had our general manager every 2 weeks on Friday afternoon. It was right around 2:00. He would come down. He'd have a guy on a fork truck with a pallet, and anything in that area that was 2 weeks old, there was no questions asked. It went on the pallet and it was gone, because the theory was, if it hasn't gotten used in 2 weeks and nobody's claimed it, we definitely don't need it. So it's out. There was no languishing, because that defeats the whole purpose of sorting. Now, in the cases where you don't have that room, and we have clients in this predicament as well, because floor space is at a premium, you can do something like this. So if you apply a red tag to a piece of equipment, a tool, whatever it may be, you can have a centrally located log. And this is just an Excel spreadsheet, something that we made. If you post this nearby in a conspicuous area, you can put the tag on the piece and write it out on this log. And the reason we do that is because if we don't, and you tag something, 2 weeks later, you may not remember. Somebody might have moved that thing. Somebody might have taken the tag off. There's a whole plethora of things that can happen. But if your boss, your general manager, owner, whomever comes down and it's their job to review this log, it'll tell them where to go to find these red tags. Otherwise, I call it an Easter egg hunt. We'll say, yeah, I tagged 15 things this week. And now they're just walking around looking, and maybe they find 12 or 13 in the first 10, 15 minutes. And they're spending an hour or two looking for those last two, right? If they don't have a direction on where to go. So those are two ways that you can do sorting. A few rules of thumb. I'm a strong proponent of picking a date and a time that says Friday morning, 8 a.m., this is what we're doing until 10, until noon, whatever it may be. Too many times we've tried to do it when the production schedule allows us to. What I call it, when things settle down, when we're not quite as busy, trust me when I tell you, that day will never come. There's always more work to do. If maybe some afternoon it turns out to be a little slower than what you thought, it's too much to try to pull this all together, because you do have to plan it. You have to have, I like to have a dumpster ready. You have to have the teams formed and everything else. It's too much to try to throw together at the last minute. So I'm a big proponent of pick a date a couple weeks in advance. And that way you can, if you have production needs, you can run a little bit of overtime ahead of time to buy yourself that time later, so you're not under stress, all those kinds of things. You definitely should pick a time and a date to do that. I also like employing what I call the buddy system. are going in pairs of people. One of my old managers used to have a great saying, none of us is as smart as all of us. So I like at least going in pairs and I also like using somebody in that pair that's not from that area. They will approach it with what we call bright eyes or shiny eyes. They'll look at things with a new perspective. Sometimes if we go to the same places, all day, every day, sometimes things just kind of fade into the background and we just don't notice them anymore. Whereas if you have somebody from another area who's never been there or is there very little, they will ask those kind of questions like, why is that thing over there? That doesn't seem to be in the right spot, right? And it can change our perception a little bit. So I do like to do that. And like I said here, have the red tag area ready or the log ready and mark stuff up. Pre-planning is especially important in this. Also, take pictures along the way. Clients, customers love to see these things. So take credit for the work that you do as you move through this process.